All right, so she's out of paint. We actually just got the trunk lid back from Mike. Or not out of paint, I'm sorry, out of primer. We just got the trunk lid back from Mike. He had to fix that corner on it, so we've got to go over it and do some dolphin glaze work. You know, them fiberglass guys, they don't ever complete the job. So, right, Ed?
That's right.
So us body guys have to do all the pretty work and get some dolphin glaze over it and make it actually look good. We primed this front clip yesterday. You can see how much more, probably watching the beginning of this video, of how many colors and fiberglass and repairs and it just all over the place, how probably overwhelming it even looked in video. Now you kind of looking at it through the video, you see how much more like relaxing it should feel to you because there's not so much going on. We actually have something that we can read and, you know, look at and figure out what we are working with. So that's the whole point of your first coat of primer, especially when you have something that is this big of a wreck, is just to give you a good foundation to work on top of. All of these sides were just an absolute train wreck from where the bull horns were deleted, and they needed a ton of blocking. This whole piece down low, I have a ton of time in hand blocking. All of these curves, I mean, everything from here down basically is all done by hand, and I'm still not done. Of course, if you've learned from the other videos how to read guide coat and how to read stuff like this, then you understand right now that this is a high spot. You understand that all this is a high spot. You know, these, well, technically that would be low normally, but this is a cut through, so that's a high. We got to fix little imperfections still like this from where the fiberglass didn't get done, but that was the whole point yesterday, is trying to find all the little imperfections on top of that black paint job was just an absolute nightmare. And I knew a lot of the imperfections would fill in with a good thick coat of primer, so that's the reason why I wanted to get a good thick coat of primer over it. So if you're doing this yourself at your house, take whatever part you're working with, trust me, sand it down with like a 180, get everything nice and smooth the best you can with a 180, and then pound you on a good coat of 2K high build primer, and then put some guide coat over it, and then start blocking on that. I promise that you'll take your project from something that felt overwhelming to something that you can understand and work with a whole lot better. That first coat of primer is always a very, very good feeling. So you can see as I went through and sanded, I haven't touched my body lines. This is all guide coat still on here. This is all guide coat in here. You don't want to touch the body lines. We're not messing with that. We went over that in some of our earlier videos. This area right here is actually curved in, so that's the reason why I've just blocked up to the curve. The natural curve, you can kind of probably see it in the camera, is like this. Okay, so you don't want to get into none of this. This is all going to be hand work. I've blocked these. It's a little messy over here in this area. This is where it took the impact originally and was repaired, but it still needs to be cleaned up. And I'm only going to be able to do so much with it. You know, I'm not a miracle worker. I'm not going to sit here and create body lines, but I'm going to try to straighten out what we got. So I still need to go through here and sharpen up the edges of the body lines. We went over all that stuff in the earlier videos, you know, and sand all this stuff out. We've got some runs in here where I puddled it on pretty thick to go over the fiberglass stuff, and I'd rather take it back off. So basically, if I put down 100% primer in this area, let's just say, I'm going to take off 50 to 75% of the primer. So that probably gets you a little better to understand the process here. You know, if everything is put down 100%, we're taking 50 to 75% back off of it. So, and then, you know, that 100% fills in minor imperfections. And then what you have left, you know, stuff like this will get filled in with the actual dolphin glaze because it's too big to fill in with the primer. And then we'll go back over everything again with a primer. Yeah. Anyways, so we're going to get at it. I'm not time-lapsing all of the sanding on this thing and, you know, going over that because it's pretty boring. You already watched me sand it originally. But we're going to finish sanding this out, coat this again with primer, and get this thing closer to paint. All right, so here's where we're at. Like I said, I didn't time-lapse none of this. So we are going to actually prime this whole entire thing. I went ahead and Scotch-Brite it and washed it again the more I worked on it and thought about it. We're going to do we're probably going to do 2 coats down here across the face of this because this is where all the 180 grit was done and all the work A lot of the severe work was done. A lot of this was reblocked out to get it nice and straight. And then we're gonna flow coat everything. So I have over reduced this primer just a little bit to get it to flow out good. And we're gonna put it on pretty wet, just like we're applying clear coat basically. And that way, in hopes that when this thing dries tomorrow, all I gotta do is scuff this out. I don't have to do a bunch of intense sanding and blocking. Like I want this primer to lay out slick as clear coat, and then that way I can just wet sand it out pretty decent in the morning and then move right on to paint. Today's Thursday, so I'm hoping to get this thing painted Friday morning. That way, if Randy wants to pick it up this weekend, he could. So we have to get the Zeus fasteners in it after paint, but my goal right now is just to get this thing primered. So I'm gonna throw y'all on time lapse and we're gonna bang out this second coat of primer on this thing. All right, so there's a second coat of primer, and this one looks a whole lot better. I have not put no guide coat on it, and there's a reason why. So if I guide coat it, then I can see all my orange peel and all my dents and everything, which I know I got all of that. But then the guide coat starts to make it hard to see tiny, tiny pinholes. So we do still have a couple tiny pinholes from just the fiberglass process. So let's find some little imperfections to show y'all. We got some little tiny pinholes right there, okay? We're gonna hit them with a little tiny dolphin glaze, a little pinhole right there, a little pinhole right there. All that stuff is in the fiberglass process, a little pinhole right there, and pinholes right there. So we're not gonna guide coat it. When this is dry tomorrow, I'm gonna take a razor blade and just hit these couple of pinholes. There's a pinhole right there. Hit these couple pinholes real fast. Really slick with dolphin glaze, a very small amount. Basically, the dolphin glaze, like we went over in the other videos, is just gonna fill inside that tiny, tiny hole. It does not need primer over it when you're doing that small of a repair. So, looks amazing. Besides that, I have got my front piece right here, just absolutely amazing. When this thing is clear coated, it's gonna look freaking killer. I've got all the curves back. It's not wavy. For fiberglass piece, it should be pretty decently straight. Try to get Randy's car painted before lunch. I'm supposed to close at 11, and it looks like I'm going to be working a few minutes late to make this happen today. That's how it goes. So what we're going to do is lay down our red VAP seal just like we did on the car itself. In between coats, I'm also going to rattle can the inside of everything black while things are drying. I'm gonna get all of my rattle can done before it's time to lay the actual red base coat. So there will get some red base coat back over the black that blows up in there, but it shouldn't be much. You don't want the rattle can after your base coat, because then if you get any rattle can on the outside, you'd have to put more base coat over it. So you can wait and play it safe and just do all this whenever it's done. The car's done, and mask it off. Mask the outside off afterwards and then do the inside, or I guess you could technically do it all first and then do it, but since I've got like 2 or 3 coats of red VAP seal to put on and then 2 coats of actual base coat color, I don't want to do it black and then have all that overspray all over it. So basically I want to start getting some on it during my VAP seal. And then when I'm done with my VAP seal, I want to make sure everything's coated. And then I only want to roll 2 red coats of actual base coat over just the outside. So I won't be focused on like getting the wheel wells and all up in there really good with the red base coat, which would get it all over the black inside. And then when you shoot your clear coat, obviously you don't have to worry about it getting on the black. And then there will be touch up on the black afterwards, but the goal is just, while we're killing time between coats for a few minutes, the goal is to get most of it all covered up in there with black. That way we don't have so much to spray. So I think this is just going to be simpler and easier. I am going to shoot this one backwards. Basically, I have the front of the car facing the back of the paint booth, so that as trash comes in through the front, since it is a cross flow, the trash basically goes up inside of the clip instead of slammed through the face and the grill of the front bumper. So let's get this knocked out. No bulldog because it's all scuffed. so there you go. We got it all sprayed out. Let's see if we put any runs in it this time. While I was spraying it, it was looking pretty good. I didn't see anything on the first pass or the second pass. Everything was looking good, so let's keep our fingers crossed. No runs. I think this might be my first high solids that I have not put runs in. And I told Randy earlier when he stopped by that I was hoping not to put any runs in this and that we wouldn't have to wet sand and buff this. So I'm pretty sure that he's going to want to wet sand and buff it, but we don't have to wet sand and buff runs out. Oh, it looks like I might have a slight sag. I spoke too soon. I didn't run it. See that slight sag in the top of the wheel arch? It's not a run yet though, it's a sag. It means it's sagging. But that won't be nothing to block out. But yeah, it's not like we got big fat runs in it to take care of. What's gonna probably bother Randy is, you see in the reflection just how, it's not orange peel, I mean, I guess it is orange peel. It's just textured. I mean, it's a fiberglass part, you know, and I've blocked it and everything, but still it just has that fiberglass look. But maybe it's just all orange peel. I don't know. But that's probably definitely gonna bother him. There's hardly no trash in it, but I'm sure he'll want to wet sand and buff the flats. I don't think none of this needs to be messed with. None of this needs to be messed with. What he'll probably want to do is just this area right here, this flat right here, and this flat across the top, and then this little area right here. None of that needs to be messed with. You know, probably the top of the wheel arches, this side has no issues, but just, you know, knock out that little bit of, I guess it is orange peel, but knock out that little bit. A little bit of build up under here. Go ahead and take your finger and get rid of that. She is wet, boy. And, you know, get rid of the little bit of orange peel over here and get rid of that little bit of start of a sag. And that might lay out over the next 10 to 20 minutes. That might actually lay out, but who knows? Because I don't remember seeing that, so I think that's in the final coat. But yeah, that looks good. So that's gonna be a wrap. I'm gonna get out of here. It's Friday. I gotta meet Randy tomorrow and get him this back. I think we're gonna go ahead and throw the Zeus fasteners in it, and he's gonna go and take this to the guy that's building the all the new turbo piping and fitting everything on the front end, because he needed the front end to make sure everything clears. And then once all that's done and we get it back for the final, then we will probably put the wet sand and buff on them small flats. So I'm sure we'll do just the flats. And that won't need nothing but probably 2,500 and 3,000 and then buff it. So it won't be a big deal at all. But that's it. I'm gonna drop this video for y'all. You can see while I was in the middle of painting, I got all the inside trimmed out in black. So it looks like a brand new piece, which looks absolutely amazing. I mean, I'll have to see in this video. I'm sure in the background you can see how dirty it was when I first sat it in here. But that just looks absolutely phenomenal how it looks up like a brand new piece. That's the details that I love to be able to do. So I've actually absolutely enjoyed working on this project with Randy and being able to be a part of this. But like, comment, subscribe. I'm gonna drop this. Y'all make sure you like it, because that helps the YouTube video. It helps YouTube, you know, and the spread of the video to let people know that they are liking it, and then YouTube pushes it harder. So thank y'all. Hope y'all have a good weekend.